Hello, I want to welcome you all to the Healing is War podcast, where we explore the dark side of starting a spiritual journey. My name is Elmira. I am your host. On each episode, we will discuss a topic that is relevant to starting your healing journey. It is great to have you. This is episode one. We are in the house. Today's topic is the bridge. What does all of that mean? The bridge. I want to explain to you how we got here. For 3 seasons since 2023, I hosted a show called Heart to Heart. That show was mainly candid conversations with spiritual teachers, spiritual leaders all over the world. That show, I would say, was love and light. The whole goal of the show was for the speakers, the guests, to tell their stories and for us to have different conversations. We talked about marriage, we talked about divorce, we discussed confidence, we discussed anger. It was so many things. You can look on my YouTube channel to discover all of those heart to heart episodes. I will say this. God spoke to me earlier this year and was like, it's time for something different. When we ended Heart to Heart in June, I didn't know what all of that would mean. I was just ready for the bridge. I was ready for whatever because it's been a consistent thing in my life to answer the call. When God speaks to me, when Spirit speaks to me, I am a channel. I don't say, oh, this is what we've always done. Let's stay there. If you know anything about me, I haven't stayed in one place for a long time. Even though I may have stayed there physically, I did not stay there spiritually. Some examples of this was back in 2010, 2011. I was working a wonderful job at the Doubletree Hotel in Richmond, Virginia. But God spoke to me and said, it's time to move. I had just gone through a breakup. I had just received my massage license, began my business, and I picked up everything and moved 700 miles away to a new city. I didn't know what was ahead, but I said, I'm willing to go over this bridge. I'm willing to face whatever's on the other side. I'm willing to jump. I'm willing to have faith. I'm willing to see. I don't know. This is that. Why we are going from heart to heart to healing is war. It's time. It's time for these conversations to explore the shadows. If the events of the past 2 weeks with the assassination of Charlie Kirk has not been a testament of that, I don't know what else is for you people. Like literally, I am watching people fight about race, about politics, about religion, anything imaginable. And because I'm a healer, I'm a spectator. I'm the bridge. I'm the one who bridges that gap between right and wrong, left and right, black and white. I said that black and white again, but up and down. Anything, anything people find division over, we can connect the dots. We can be the bridge. Again, that's what I've been noticing. It goes back to a post I wrote a couple of weeks ago, right after the Charlie Kirk assassination. I asked the question because one of the things I do is operate out of curiosity. I did a post on Facebook that says, Why are people calling Charlie Kirk racist? I really wanted to know because before now, I didn't know anything about this gentleman, about this activist, and I was genuinely curious. You should have seen the war in the comments. That's why I say healing is war. And mainly, it's you against you. And that's what people were battling with themselves. They were trying to recompense. They were trying to come to grips with their own shadows, their own racism, their own turmoil, their own, am I really a Christian still? If believe in what this guy said, am I really this? Am I really this? And I mean, people were going back and forth with me, and all I did was ask a question. I never said whether I supported the guy or did not support the guy, but that's why we need bridge builders like me. We can witness, make the link, and then forge the connection for the entire human population. That's why we're talking about this right now. The time is ripe. People are ready. So many that I've listened to, their whether they're clients, friends, colleagues, as I pay attention on social media, young, old alike, are embarking on a spiritual journey. They're saying, I want to go inward. I want to become one with myself. I want to discover who God really is. What is this? What is this world? I know it's not just 3D because everything that I've seen has proven it's beyond this. Prices are rising. Things that I thought mattered don't matter anymore. People are dying. There's wars across the land. You're doing this spiritual journey. This podcast is giving you guidance, giving you wisdom, giving you tips. Each of our guests that will be upcoming on the episodes will be sharing what they've gone through, the shadows, the darkness they've encountered as they decided to go on their own spiritual journey. Now, what is the meaning of the title, Healing is War? I've had a lot of people confront me and approach me, and it's like, Elmira, that title is provocative. Why would you say that? Healing is war. What we're dealing with, why would you say war? Why wouldn't you say healing is peace? Because from what I've discovered, it's actually more war. In order to achieve peace, we have to go through some battle. We have to be a soldier. We have to be willing to face the crevices, the darkness, the demons, and not just say everything is love and light. That's why I'm using this title. And I'll be honest with you. I didn't want to use this title at first because it was so in your face. It was so raw. It was so like, can I say that? But that was my own fear of being judged. That was my own not wanting to be myself that got in the way. But it wasn't me. Because God clearly told me this is what you should call the podcast. That's why we're calling it Healing is War, because we need to be confronted with things like racism, sexism, religion, patriarchy, matriarchy. I could go on with the list. Molestation, anything, divorce, whatever you dealt with. It's a war. It's a battle within yourself. It's not all pretty. I've witnessed it many, many times in my life, whether it was through death, whether it was through breakups. I had to cry. I had to scream. I had to shed. I had to stay up in the middle of the night when nobody else was there. I had to hire coaches, healers, trainers. The list can go on to make me feel whole again because I had to shed the darkness in order to see the light. This title is also based on my book, so it's even more relevant. I wrote a book several years ago called Healing is for Warriors, Not Wimps. That book was downloaded while I was going through Sacred Woman with Queen Afua. If anybody of you know her, you can attest to the power, to the revelation, to the shedding, to becoming a new individual that you'll go through. I did that back in 2020, 2021, writing the book. Healing is for warriors, not wimps. Because it's true. In order to say, I want to be more spiritual, I don't want to be the same person I was yesterday, you have to be what I call a soldier. You want to go into the war. You're not going away from the war, and it requires courage. It requires an immense amount of courage to say, I want to heal myself. I want to forgive myself. I want to forgive my parents. I want to I want a new life. I want more money. I want more success. I want to love again. That was me. I remember when I hired my first life coach, Enrique Pascal. This was right after massage school, and I was holding so much hate, resentment, anger in my heart for my dad because I blamed him for leaving us. And I say us because I'm including my mom and my siblings. And I knew, how am I going to go into this career, this profession where I'm putting hands on people, healing people, if I have hate in my heart? It didn't match. During those sessions with Enrique, I lightened up because he gave me the guidance. He made me feel like more of a warrior. I was able to have a conversation with my dad. I was able to forgive him. I wrote him a letter. And when he died years ago, I was happy to have restored that relationship. I was happy to have stepped into that war. Yes, it's like going to battle because you have to do scary things. You must have courage to say, I don't believe that shit no more. It's okay. Maybe it'll distance from you from your family. Maybe it will distance you from your friends. Maybe it will distance you from your community, but you will be welcoming in a new community. I'm a living testimony to that because people want to see your authentic self. They don't want a wimp. They want a strong, bold man, a strong, bold woman. Yes. Nobody wants a wimp. Healing is war. That's what's in the book. The book, Healing is for Warriors, Not Wimps. Each chapter, I delve into things you're going to face on this spiritual journey. The subtitle says Divine Guidance for Your Spiritual Journey. And it links to what this podcast is doing too. This is a teaching mechanism. I'm a teacher first. You should know that. I've been teaching all my life. I've been learning all my life. I think back to a story my mom and dad told me at the age of 4. I wanted to learn from my older brother's books and what he was picking up. He's 5 years older than me. I'm a teacher. I'm a student. In order to be a great teacher, you got to be a student. So I'm a student of healing. I'm a student of war. I'm a student of the battle between, the battle within yourself, all things spirituality. It's all there within you. That's the meaning of the title, Healing is War. Because people told me again, they're like, why would you say that? It's not war. Yes, it is. If you've been where I've been and you've actually done the healing work, you will understand this is a war. Some secrets will be revealed. Some people will go by the wayside. Some things will just not seem right. You're going to uncover the illusion of what you thought was real. This is a war out here, people. It's a war. Let me check real quick because I want to see if any of you are. Do we have any comments? I don't think we have any comments right now, so we're good. I'm going to continue. What dark shadows have I faced? Let's discuss three of them. One of the darkest shadows was religion. I grew up Christian. As a matter of fact, I lived next to the church, went to church every Sunday in the youth choir, in the adult choir, in all the choirs. And I was in the choir in college. But as I started to unpack things, as I started to want to heal myself, want to forgive my parents, want to forgive myself, Christianity no longer served me in the way that it used to. It just didn't. I got to be honest with you. It was when I began inviting in things like massage therapy, breath work, writing letters, hiring a life coach. I mentioned that already. Those things help me way more than the tenets of Christianity. And and I will say I'm still going through some turmoil of leaving that behind because it feels like everybody around me is a Christian. And many times I have to keep my mouth shut and not tell them my real beliefs. I don't believe that Jesus is the only savior. So if I didn't believe that in my heart of hearts, and if that's not my truth, why would I continue to participate in a religion that was not serving my truth? That was a question, that was some darkness, a shadow I had to face. Because as I started to learn about the history of Christianity and the history of everything else, it just didn't make sense to me. That was the first shadow, one of the shadows I endured. The second one, racism. I grew up in New Kent County, Virginia, predominantly white area. And I distinctly remember it wasn't a thing where we thought about race. However, I did notice some things, especially when I graduated. Some things were taken away from me, like my valedictorian position. I'm smart, I'm intelligent, that was mine. But due to systematic racism and some politics that were happening behind the scene that little old 17-year-old, 18-year-old me had no knowledge of because I just loved everybody and still do. But I didn't understand the history of racism in America, the history of racism in the world until I began studying myself and understanding not everybody was for me. Not everybody loves like me. I have to be aware of the enemy. I have to be aware who's warring against me, who doesn't want to see me succeed. Of course, I didn't stay there and say, oh, everything is the fault of racism, but it's foolish. Let me say that again. It's foolish not to be aware of other people's darkness, of other people's shadows, of what they're warring with. And I cried so many times. I was angry. Like when I woke up to some of these realities, I was really angry. This was 2016, 2017, 2018. I did not want to deal with a white person ever, as somebody who called themselves white, Caucasian, whatever label you wish to put on it, because I could not imagine another human being could treat someone who looked like me in an egregious way. Economically, spiritually, physically, so many things were taken from me, my mom, my dad, my grandparents, my great grandparents, just because of how we looked. How about that? That discovery had me warring within myself, but eventually I let go of the anger and was like, yeah, they're people just like me. They're dealing with their struggles, racism. And today is so true. You can see it 2025, 2026, 2027, because it's embedded in the governments, it's embedded in the psyche, it's embedded in the cells of every country, particularly all the countries that were colonized. We can't ignore it. And I didn't ignore it. I would be foolish to sit around and ignore it and say, oh, racism doesn't exist, color doesn't exist. That's stupid. That was the second shadow I had to face. The third shadow I had to face was my family. I always knew I was different. My entire family is artistic, creative, everything. However, when people would come over the house, I would sit up in the room alone. It's not that I wouldn't engage or communicate with people. I was introverted and people's energy would just get to me. And I'm like, I can't take this. So I would go in my room. I spent a lot of, it's reminding me of that Brandy song, sitting up in my room. I would sit up in my room and create music or listen to music, write songs, write poetry. And wasn't because I don't love my family or I didn't want to be connected with my family. I thrive in solitude. I thrive when I get time to myself and then I can serve other people. But if it's always so many people around me, I can't do it. It's one of the reasons I moved to Nashville. I needed to rediscover myself. I needed to see who I was supposed to be on the further steps and the further parts of my soul mission. I had to separate from my family. I had to separate from the ideals of Christianity. I had to separate from the ideals of what my sexuality should look like. Oh, you shouldn't show your shoulder or that's too sexy or and the key about this, nobody ever said anything to me. Well, some people did. I'll take that back. Some people in the family have spoken to me about things they don't like that I do. I had to be my authentic self. I had to face that shadow. It hurt because my siblings, my cousins, my church family, where I grew up, was so ingrained in me, and it really tore me up to leave that behind, to feel like I was flying, to feel like I was separating from them. But in order for me to have what I need, and in order for you to have what you need, you're going to have to leave some people behind. How are you going to stay in the same place, the same person year after year? You can't. It was a harsh reality for me. And one of the things was when I ascended in Sacred Woman. I invited my family. None of them showed up for me. It was sad. I had to deal with it and say, this is me. This is my healing. This is my ascension. No matter who shows up for me, and that's what I'm saying to you, no matter who shows up for you, you have to live out your soul mission. You have to do your spiritual journey. You don't need support. Yes, it's great to have support. And going back to that, the only person who attended my ascension was my boyfriend Terrence. And that's when I knew, I was like, okay, he is supporting me on this next level. Realize those things within yourself. There are some shadows we have to face. There are some feelings we have to feel. It hurts, it burns, it shakes you up. You're like, I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be depressed. I don't want to fight. Sometimes you have to fight. Next question. What's the biggest thing you should bridge? The biggest thing is truth. What's your truth? What do you believe? Do you believe just because the Democratic Party told you to believe that? Do you believe because the Republican Party told you to believe that? Do you believe because your family said so? Do you believe because your husband or your wife said so? What is your authentic truth? That's what you need to bridge. You have to discover that within yourself. Also, recognize what you've ignored. I used to try to ignore the pains in my body or ignore the fact that I had gained 40 pounds and just say, oh, I'm just getting older. I'm supposed to gain weight. You're supposed to gain weight when you get over 30. That's a bold-faced lie. Whoever told you that needs to go to hell because it's a lie. If you've been ignoring something, face it. Face yourself in the mirror. Look at yourself in the mirror. Hold yourself accountable for what you did in your breakup. You know, I'm always talking about that, the breakup. Don't just blame it on your ex. He did that. She did that. What did you do? That's what you're going to have to bridge. What did you do? I did that with myself. I used to give my ex a silent treatment. I didn't communicate well. I didn't give him enough time. And at the time, I was like, oh, he's just saying that. But then once I did the work on myself, I faced my shadows. I went to war with myself. I was able to see, yeah, he was right. I realized that years ago. I'm like, yeah, he was right. I had to recognize, I had to put the light, shine the light on the things I had been ignoring. Who is your soul calling you to be right now? Who is your soul calling you to be? Seriously, is your soul calling you to quit your job and start a business as a sound healer? I don't know. I'm just throwing things out there. Is your soul calling you to be a father? Is your soul calling you to write a book? Is your soul calling you to get baptized? The list is innumerous. You have to listen, take some quiet time, ask God, who is your soul calling you to be? Only you can answer that. You can't get it in a book. You can't get it in one of these oracle cards I got right here. You think you can. They may be a little guide, but you will only know who your soul is calling you to be when you ask the question. You bridge the gap between your old self and your new self. You're willing to face the darkness. You're willing to say, hey, maybe I was wrong. Maybe now's the time for something new, something different. Maybe it's time for me to change my diet. I'm tired of feeling like this. I did that too. I did that too. Many, many fasts. I recall doing the lemonade fast. This was right before I moved to Nashville, working at the Doubletree Hotel. My coworkers laughed at me. Oh, ha 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 ha. Is that all you're going to drink? That lemon juice? Yes, it was. I was committed to shedding, to detoxing, to letting the old things go. For 7 days, that's all I drunk. Was that lemon, what is it? Fresh squeezed lemon juice, cayenne pepper, water, and maple syrup. It was hard. Believe you me, it was tough. I had to face the war. I had to watch them eat donuts, eat chicken tenders, eat Doubletree cookies, everything in my face. And all I was drinking was my lemonade. Because I could see the new me. I could see me shedding the layers. I could see me not wanting to be them. Most of all, because those co-workers were unhealthy, unfit, unsatisfied, unhappy. I said, I do not want this to be me in 10 years. So I made a decision. I drew a line in the sand, and this means war. I said, this will not be Elmira, and this will not be you. Remember, this is a bridge between the old you and the new you. I want to say thank you for tuning in today to Healing is War. We will have another episode next week. Remember, your soul is calling you to greatness. Be a soldier. You are ready for war.